Richard Salem is a New Bern native who lost his sight at the age of 16. He has founded a nonprofit organization called Enable America, which is devoted to improving employment opportunities for people with disabilities. I talked with him recently to find out more. Mr. Salem, you grew up in eastern North Carolina and you played baseball there growing up, and you're from a military family. Talk about your history there with that.
My father was a Naval Academy grad. I was born in New Bern, and as we relocated back to the state, we, of course, found the banks of the Neuse River and settled in there near military installations, Cherry Point and Camp Lejeune, but also near my hometown, New Bern. It was a fun time, a growth period for that area of the state, and I have fond memories of a childhood that was rich with culture and nature, scouting, and playing ball. And that's sort of where my life started to change as a teenager.
Hey, talk about the incident that happened playing baseball.
I was actually standing on the side of the field talking with a friend. I heard the bat crack, and the next thing I knew, there were bright lights over me, and I was in a medical facility. I always think back of the wonderful docs that looked me over. They were affiliated with the Marine Corps Air Station there, and what actually occurred was still somewhat of a mystery. You have to remember that was a few years ago, and before we had some of the technology that's available today. But in essence, the eye in the back of the eye where the retina is started to hemorrhage, and over a period of time and after visiting many hospitals from Mayo to Hopkins to Duke and back, they called me in one day, and my mother said, the doctors want to speak with you, and they said, you know, we have something to share with you. Soon you're not going to be able to see. And I said, well, you know, I've still got one eye that's working well. And they shared with me a little known fact, and that is the eyes are sympathetic. And they said, well, unfortunately, we're starting to see your other eye react, and it's going to start hemorrhaging as well, and there's nothing we can do to arrest that. Maybe years from now, modern medicine will be able to address these issues, but we're sure that you'll do fine. I went home that evening, and my mother asked me whether she wanted, I wanted her to go in and tell my father, or if I wanted to. I went into my father's office and waited for him to finish up a call, and he said, so how'd we do at the doctor's today? And I said, well, Dad, there's something I want to share with you, and soon I'm not going to be able to see. Well, I had never seen my father cry. This is a Navy captain who fought in World War II as a communications officer on a ship and went to Japan, and these crocodile tears started coming down. He came around, cut off the lights, and dried my eyes off with his handkerchief, and dried his, and gave me a hug and said, we're going to fight this, we'll do fine. And I went home and decided the best thing I could do at that point was to secure myself in my room that I knew and that would be a safe haven. And there I sat for what now seems like an eternity.
Now, this was not the end, though, of your life. This was just the start of a new life. You went on to college, and you went on to law school. You're the first graduate of Duke University's law school. How did you get up the courage, and how did you continue to motivate yourself to get to that point?
It's hard to tell, but I will say this, that it was the help of friends, family, and a strong and abiding faith. I was in that room for, as I said, a long while. We had homeschooling before it was such a thing in the Webster's Dictionary. And finally, some friends got me to climb out the window one night and go riding down to the beach. And on the way home that evening, I realized as the wind was blowing and the music playing that I forgot that I couldn't see, and it dawned on me, well, I can do this. Well, I did. I went on to school, and again, with working with others and the help of many ended up sitting across from the assistant dean at Duke Law School one fateful day with my buddies in the lobby or outside on the steps waiting to see how I fared. They all drove me up in a caravan to see how I was going to fare through this interview, and came out okay.
Now, you became a successful lawyer, and you argue with me about what a successful lawyer is earlier. But you've had a very good career as a lawyer, and you made everything happen, and that's led you to where we're here today. Is for Enable America. Let's talk about what Enable America is and how it's growing and how you continue to help out and to give back.
Well, from Duke, where the dean at the end of the interview said to me, you know, there's one thing we need to share. We've never had a blind student at Duke Law School and not quite sure of how to deal with all of your issues. And I said, well, Dean, I've never been to law school either, so maybe we can work together and sort it out. If you take that concept and put it into the practice of law, that is what good lawyers do. They're working with their clients to sort out issues and sort out problems. And I was very blessed, very successful as it relates to how hard you can work. Worked real hard. And one day I was walking through Washington, and my assistant said, Mr. Salem, there's a sign above this door, President's Committee on the Employment of People with Disabilities. Well, I popped in, and when I came out an hour later and realized that 70% of people with disabilities in our nation, that would be are unemployed. That would be like of the people that are disabled, 70% are unemployed. I went back to that 32nd floor office and suite and thought to myself, you know, this is something that I'm not going to retire and say, well, thank God it wasn't me. We're going to do something about this.
And now you're bringing the concept of Enable America to the Raleigh and Eastern North Carolina area. Talk about how you're expanding the project here.
Our mission to increase employment among people with disabilities is broad, but in particular, our effort is to provide real-life experiences to people with disabilities in the workplace. If you have a disability or know someone that has a disability, whether you're a wounded warfighter or someone that was born with a disability and want to give something a try, being an accountant, being on an assembly line, working in a pharmaceutical company, we manage and help you through that process, and on the other hand, work with employers to get their workforce ready to have someone just for a day with a disability join them, shadow them, and have that real-life experience. That's a key element. Our mentoring program is, I would say, the hallmark of Enable America's success.
Now, you mentioned it briefly there that some of the people that you're also serving and helping is the veterans. And with your background with the family in the military, you have a special part there for the Vet Connect.
Our young people sign up, volunteer Army, Navy, Marine Corps, go off to fight for our liberty and come back wounded, injured. And in many instances, those courageous young men and women think that I'm washed up, I'm damaged goods, what am I going to do? We try to get with them and their families quickly as we can on their return and say, we're here for you in our Vet Connect program. Provide them mentors to usher through a complicated medical and retirement system, but most importantly, reintegrate into the community and back to the hallmark, provide those mentoring opportunities for them to see that they really do have something to offer on the outside, just as they did as a military person.
Richard Salem from Enable America, welcome back to North Carolina and good luck with your project.
Thank you. Glad to be home.
For more information on Enable America, you can visit their website at enableamerica.org.